Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take the What podcast. I am Tara Bowen Biggs, and I am so excited to be getting inching closer and closer to the beginning of the Blazer season with my friend Rose Harding beside me or across from me. Hi, Rose.
Hi, Tara. How are you doing today?
Well, as you can see, I'm really excited to be talking about Blazers. And to help us talk about Blazers, we have a guest today, returning longtime friend of the pod is Dylan Sage. Hey, Sage, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you queens doing today?
It just feels like everything's right, us all being back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to talk about the Blazers. It's been a summer of me not thinking about basketball really, so getting back into it, it's very exciting.
Yeah, same girl, same. I have not thought about basketball. Well, I mean, I guess I thought about WNBA, but like not like NBA basketball for like, I don't know, like 4 months. It's been great.
Yeah, I gambled on WNBA every day, so I guess I did think about basketball, but I didn't really think about like, you know, team construction. I was thinking about points, overs, and unders, or money line betting. So this is totally different than thinking about who can score and who can rebound. This is the Trailblazers. It's time to talk.
Who can score? Who can rebound? Who can tell?
Um, so I have an icebreaker to start us all off. It's been like forever since we've done one because we haven't had a guest in a while. But I heard this one at work and I was like, oh, I'm gonna steal that because it was a good time.
I can't
So my
wait.
look, it might flop here, so like I guess I shouldn't have prefaced it that way. Okay, icebreaker time. What are your guys' ice preferences and drinks?
Oh, easy for me. I'll jump right in. I like all the ice. I love cold drinks. When I have water, it has to be super, super cold. Give me all of the ice. And I prefer like crushed or small ice, but I do not have that luxury at home. So yeah, oh, that was a good question.
That
I like
was
it. How about you all?
Sage, you want to go?
sure. I have a countertop ice maker that does like the bullet ice cubes, and
Oh, like the
yeah,
pellets?
yeah, like I think it's the Sonic ice cubes. And I really like to make my drinks cold, but I know most Asian people like to have it uh normal temp, but I'm a total let's get as much ice in my drink as humanly possible person.
Wait, hold on. Tell me about this countertop ice maker.
Yeah, like you fill it up with water and then it like continuously makes ice for all of your drinks
Just like on your countertop.
on my countertop, yeah.
So you don't have to plumb anything.
No, all you do is just pour like, your water bottle full, fill it up to the line, and then it continuously makes ice for you.
Okay, so if you guys see me searching for stuff on the phone during this,
Yeah.
I may be investigating this further.
Well,
Yeah.
and so it's like the pellet ice though. It's like the
Yeah.
small little ice.
1 second. I mean, can we pause? I'll get one.
No, no, no. You don't have to. I'll say like I didn't really
When they become a
realize.
sponsor.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on TikTok Shop. I will put the countertop ice maker on my thing so you can check it out.
Perfect.
But yeah, I realized that I don't like drinking water without ice, so I wanted to drink more water in my everyday life. So I researched countertop ice makers. I was like, oh, this seems fun. So, I get the scooper out, put it in my water bottle, and then, I drink more water because of it.
That's great. See, ice is a very divisive
Oh yeah.
topic, or people have strong opinions about. Okay,
Yeah,
I
what are
will share.
yours?
So I will share my. So in general, I'm not super picky about ice or no ice, really. Um, However, my favorite drink in the whole world is a Coke from the machine at Size Pizza in Eugene with their ice.
Mm.
Specifically they have like a I don't know if they still have it. I haven't been there in like 10 years, but like they have like an old Coke machine that's probably from like the 70s. And I think it makes pellet ice. So
Mm.
it's like it looks like real crushed small and it has a lot of little tiny bits in it that gets in it. So it's almost a little slushy. So
Ooh.
like a Coke with specifically the ice from the ice machine and size pizza. And if I really want to be specific, I could be like circa like 1989.
That's
That's the best drink I've ever had in my entire life.
that's a long time to go without your favorite drink in the world.
Well, no, I don't know that I don't I have had it since then, but I can't remember loving it more than like 1989.
The nostalgia factor has to be crazy.
Yeah. And it probably at that point it wasn't a Coke, probably it was Sprite because I didn't drink caffeine when I was like, I don't know, how old was I? 7, 6, 5, something like that. Whatever. But anyway, that specifically is my ice preference. And other than that, my daughter is a big ice water fan, so we always have a lot of ice in our house, but she prefers like those smaller cubes because she likes to like suck on them or chew on them or whatever.
From ice takes to hot takes, I can't thank you enough for setting us up that beautifully, Rose. Like, round of applause
Yeah,
for
good job. That was
everyone. That
awesome.
was fantastic.
Thanks for playing along, everybody.
We,
Tweet us your ice preferences too.
we are starting off this season right with the things that matter, or at least the things that are going to matter this season. And with that, one of the reasons that we brought Sage on to talk to us today is I don't know if people have, I'm sure you've heard me talk about these before, but during the previous seasons, every Friday on the Holy Backboard podcast, they do Future Friday and they watch college basketball or international basketball for all of us, doing us a favor to scout out potential recruits. And so, Sage, I really can't wait to hear what you have to tell us about Donovan Clingan. Now, was he on your radar when you
Oh,
were
I
doing the
wrote a blog
research?
about him
Okay.
after his freshman year because I thought he was going to be one of the returning starters that were had a bigger role. So I knew about Donovan Clingan. Like UConn won 2 chips in a row, and he was, a semi big factor in his freshman year, and then a much bigger factor in his sophomore year. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Donovan. Like I think that we didn't have this particular episode dedicated to Donovan Clingan because we talked about Donovan Clingan like every week for like a month and a half during March Madness. So we didn't feel like we needed to do it since it was all we talked about because UConn was so good. But yeah, I knew Donovan Clingan, and I mean I think our takes changed on him as the season got better, but you know, going from being skinny to putting on like 30 pounds of weight was always worrisome for me. Because his freshman year, he was skinny. And then sophomore year, he just put on so much weight and that it could never pass like a 24-minute threshold.
Okay. Okay. So, let's roll it back to what did you think about the pick for Portland?
I thought it was good. Donovan, I think his agency really did a good job of making people forget about his injury issues. So, like, there was no talk about really bad foot issues in the entire draft process. But yeah, he's had some feet and ankle issues because he's so big and then put on more weight. But as like a player, I thought he was awesome in post defense. Like I watched a lot of people. Like I watched Clay Ware, and then there was a game where Indiana played against UConn, and Donovan Clingan just big brothered him the entire game. So it was like, whoa, this dude as a defender is fantastic. And then he passed it at a really, really good clip for how big and tall he is. So like I think that if he can stay healthy, he's gonna be like a top 15 center. It's just about the health. And then I need him to prove that he can actually play more than 24 minutes because he just never did at UConn. So I don't know if like his body is capable of doing all of that movement and all of that punishment because he is such a big dude. Like he has to bang bodies with opposing centers all day. I don't know if his body's gonna heal hold up the entire time because man, he just has never proved it. And it might be because of UConn being so good that they didn't need to, but like he never played big minutes.
I mean, does he need to for the Blazers?
No, I mean right now, no. But like it was just like he gets taken out at 23, 24 minutes every game. I want to see what he can do with extended time, but I think that day one, you're gonna see him set screens and play defense and dunk the ball when it's close to him. I mean, you saw like he showed that he could shoot, but shooting in an open gym is so much different than shooting in a game where there's decision makings that you need to make. Like if you're just shooting a ball in an open gym, that's what you're doing, you're shooting. But in a game, there's like context. There's if this person, contests me, it's not a good idea to shoot. I can pass. Like there's all these decision making processes that he didn't need to do when he was shooting in an open gym in the combine.
Okay, I want to talk a minute about defense and how you think that he can actually help the Blazers on defense. Now, the way I see it, the last few years, it's been pretty much a red carpet to the rim for anybody who would like to come and score on the
Hmm.
Blazers at the rim. Go ahead, come on up. Here's the carpet, here's the path for you. I'm hoping that Donovan Clingan can be more of a deterrent to like maybe have people change their mind that they're not even going to try it. And so it's instead of like a red carpet, it's more like one of those, when they put up the pads where you have to go like
At the
back and forth
airport.
through the little
Yeah.
stanchions and work a little bit harder. How do you think he can help the Blazers improve on defense?
I think he absolutely can. Like, I think that post defense, which doesn't really happen these days, he's like A plus. Like, he can really use his length. Now, one of my big issues with him defensively is he jumps at everything, but he's like 7'4" and he's taller than everybody, so I don't think he needs to do that. If he stayed on his feet, I think he would be an S tier elite defender. But young dude wants to jump at stuff, so he does and gets fouls and stuff like that. But if he realized how tall he actually is, I think he'd be really awesome. It's just that he's kind of undisciplined with the jumping, kind of like, pre-show we were talking about Hassan Whiteside. Hassan doesn't think about not jumping after the ball. So Donovan kind of had that issue at UConn where he was just trying to get every block shot. But you can rep that stuff out when you're teaching them like, you're 7'3", you're so tall. You have like a 10-foot wingspan. Just make people shoot over your extended hands and not try and jump at everything. But I think defensively, he's really, really, really solid. I wouldn't say special, but I would say he's very solid as a defender, which is a extreme difference than what the Blazers have done. But you know, having Dame, having CJ, having all of these small guards throughout the years, like they didn't help the bigs at all in any circumstances. So having Denny Avdia, having Tumani Kamara, having these versatile wing defenders should help whoever's playing center with the Portland Trailblazers this year.
So people are seeing this giant tree of a man and
Hmm.
they're like, maybe I'm not going to go in there and I'll turn around and look, there's Tamani Kamara in my face.
Hmm.
That's the ideal situation, right?
Well, I think that it's just like we didn't. I mean, we just weren't tall enough and we didn't have the desire to grind. But now, I mean, we have Tumani, we have Denny, we have Shaden if he's healthy. These guys are taller, bigger players that can deter. It wasn't that our centers were bad, it was that our guards just let everything by them, and the center can only do so much. So now that we have a better front line defense, or yeah, a front line defensively, it's like we're able to stop them a little bit more. I mean, like Scoot Henderson when we watched him play defense, he got fouls like every 2 minutes because he was so aggressive. So now we have guys that are aggressive and want to play defense. I think that our defense as a whole will be better even when DA or Donovan or Robert play, just because everybody else is a better defender too.
I have more questions about Klingon, but I
Yeah,
don't want
let's
to
talk about it.
monopolize the whole
Let's
conversation.
talk Donovan. Like I talked about him for years. Like let's talk about Donovan. I like him.
Okay, well, maybe you can tell me that I am overreacting to this because I'm sure I'm overreacting to this. But a concern for me is him coming from a two-time national championship with one of the best college coaches out there
Hmm.
and coming to Portland. Now, who are not pursuing wins this year so much as they are pursuing development. Now, I understand how these things work. I know that high draft picks go to bad teams. That's like
Mhm.
how it is. But I'm wondering how it's going to work if you have any concern about that, because we have a coach who's potentially in his last year, hasn't really been given the tools to work with, hasn't really shown us what he can do. Am I overreacting to this? Help me feel okay about it.
I
Please.
mean, he's had success, but I'm sure at one point in time things suck. And, sometimes being in a bad situation makes you grow, but I'm not really worried about Donovan being like a total culture shock from winning everything in UConn to potentially sucking here. Like that's just kind of how it is when you're a rebuilding team. If he makes a big deal out of it, that might be an issue, but I don't think that he'll be able like he knows we're we're
Mhm.
we're developing.
Yeah,
Um
the secondary part of that is that but things have changed in the last few days, actually, in my mind. A lot of the guys that the Blazers are really looking at building their future around, Anthony, Scoot, and Shaden, have not been in those types of programs
mhm.
that Klingon was in
Oh
as
yeah.
well. And so, and maybe having been in the NBA long enough, they've now, I don't know. I worry about them not coming from a place where they were playing for something like the G League Ignite.
They didn't
Like
care about
they
wins.
didn't play. They didn't
Mhm.
play to win. They didn't play for anything. Anthony was in a gym. I feel like Anthony's maybe not that much of an issue anymore because he like did play for the Blazers when they were competing.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm worried about the him coming into a situation where it's just all about growth and not about wins. But I think I'm getting over the hump on that. You helped a little bit with that. Thank you.
I mean, there's nothing we can do. Like all of these high
Yeah.
draft picks have had, like the G League Ignite failed because of many different reasons, and then Shaden Sharp didn't play a college game, and EYBL was really hard to scout. So, and then Anthony Simons in his situation, like it was all like that. Those are who we drafted. There's nothing we can change now. I hope Donovan Clingan can be the change that these other three guys need because he has competed in a different, at the highest level in college. He was the starting center or the backup center on a championship team. Maybe he can be the thing that boosts all these other guys up. But I'm not worried about Donovan. Like he's pretty. Like he's professional, even though he hasn't played a single second of professional basketball.
I
I'm
love
curious
that.
to I'm curious, Tara. So, um, you're worried. So I know you're worried a little bit about like his mentality suffering, but I also am curious whether you ever worry about players that um go like guys of Donovan Clingan's resume going on to teams that are trying to win now. Like there's a certain amount of pressure that comes there too for mentality for people who are expected to make great like big leaps right away because they're a top draft pick and then maybe they're not going to the worst situation ever or like a team that's further along on their rebuild. Like I think about like when the Suns made that jump when Aiton was their center and he
Mm,
hadn't been in the league very long. Like,
mm,
so I guess I'm just saying is like it's a little bit of a double-edged sword where like sometimes you go to a team where you're more likely to win, but you're also like there's a lot more expectation around what you're supposed to be able to do. And
mm.
maybe you're not quite ready to make that leap yet. So maybe there's some amount of blessing for a guy coming from college who's going to be now playing 82 games a year and he's going to have to play more minutes and like maybe it's nice to just be able to like ease into that for a couple of years without the pressure of performing at this high level and being like a super distinct important piece to a franchise.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that coupled with the point that Sage made about maybe actually the one that is going to be the catalyst for the others who came from situations where maybe they haven't been winning, and like
Mm.
maybe he's the one who's going to make the difference. So you guys have done a great job of like starting to help me through all of this. Thank you very much.
Did at FanFest did Donovan look like big
Huge, huge.
width wise, or was he skinnier than you thought?
No, he's
Okay.
huge.
Yeah.
Actually, one my biggest takeaway from I went to FanFest yesterday, and my biggest takeaway is the Blazers are taller.
Hmm.
Like they're bigger. Like, oh, like I was like, oh, they are bigger now. And as far as the size for Donovan Clingan, yeah, I had no idea that he was that skinny his freshman year. He reminds me kind of like Noah Vonleh in terms of like when Noah Vonleh came in, his like just like his general sturdiness,
Hmm.
um, as opposed to some of these skinnier guys that sometimes come in and then fill out after they come into the NBA. He just seems massive. Like Anthony Simons like looked little next to him.
Hmm.
But just in general, I was just like looking at the guys on the court going, they have height. I was so excited. I
Hmm.
mean, Scoot's the littlest one, but like there's only one of him, and everybody else is like 6'5", 6'6". I don't know exactly how tall they are, but like definitely taller than Scoot. And I was
Hmm.
just like that. I was kind of excited about that.
Isn't Devontae Graham? Devontae Graham's a little guy too,
Yeah. And
and
Taze more.
more, yeah,
But just in general,
yeah,
there was a lot more height than I'm used to seeing.
and Moore is going to be a hustle, electric, small guy that's athletic,
Hmm.
and then, I mean, Anthony's not the tallest dude in the world either, but.
No. But I was just it was nice to see just like everybody looked like they were maybe a couple inches taller on average than
Mhm.
it has been for a while. Okay, well, Rose, do you have any more questions about Donovan?
No. The only thing I wanted to say that just is not adding anything to this conversation, but I need to say it to somebody because I haven't said it to anybody, is that Donovan Clingan, whenever I see pictures of him that are like maybe like waist or shoulders up, I like don't really appreciate how giant he is because he has a small head and a short neck.
Mhm.
And this is just something that I have to say because, like, I feel like most I'm used to having centers with giant heads and long necks. Like, look at Aiton. Aiton has a giant head and a long neck. Like, Nurk had a big head and a long like. And so there's something about Donovan Clingan that also he has a little bit of a baby face and his head is a
Oh, yeah.
little bit smaller. I'm like, I feel like I'm looking at a boy, and
Mhm.
then you get the like zoom back and then you see the whole body and you're like, oh no, that's a giant man. He's
Hmm.
giant. He just has a small head and a short neck. But he has exceptionally long arms, like great wingspan, like huge, but just a small head and a small neck. So maybe he won't get hit in the face as much as Nurk got hit.
Oh, Nurk was a target from getting hit in the beak. One thing that I want to say about Donovan is he is an excellent, excellent passer for how tall he is. Like, I think that he's going to be one of these guys that makes life easier for Scoot, especially with his passing. And then if we do have Shaden Sharp, like, I want to see a lot of pick and roll between those two. Like, I think that we've done a really bad job of making life easier for Shaden. I want to see him be like young Jimmy Butler on the Bulls, where there was guys that could pass him the ball, and it was just one cut to the basket, and he uses his athleticism and dunks. So having Denny, having Donovan, having Scoot, guys that are willing and able to pass, I think could make Shaden's life easier. But I don't know if we're gonna do a lot of off-ball movement using off-ball screens and allowing him to use his athleticism to go and dunk it. So dream world, we adopt the Bulls from like 2010's scheme, but I don't think we do it.
Well, it's going to be interesting this year because last year at this time there was so much change. It was like a completely different staff. I
Mhm.
mean, not staff, but team. There,
Mhm.
all the players were like had just turned over like at a moment's notice.
Mhm.
And so, as far as like what the coaching staff had to implement, it was probably like a learning curve there in terms of like people had to come and like learn what the plays are.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to not as much transition in terms of personnel this year and maybe seeing if right from the get-go we can actually see them running some more plays than we've seen in the past. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of one thing that I wanted to talk to you about.
You can call me
Just called you
Shaden.
Shaden.
Yeah.
Sage. Um, that's a compliment, by the way, for me to call
Yeah,
you
I'll
Shaden.
I'll, I'll take a Shaden Sharp comp.
Um, but like in terms of uh things that you expect to see from the players, given their situation, given what they're working on, given that we're in a developmental year, what are some things that you are going to look for this season on the court?
I want to see Donovan Clingan run as much pick and roll with Scoot Henderson as humanly possible. Donovan is a great screen setter, and Scoot Henderson showed how good of a pick and roll operator he was. And then having, like I think it was 800 minutes with DeAndre Ayton, who doesn't set screens. It's gonna be interesting to see what you can do with a center that's willing to set big body screens for Scoot Henderson. So I want to see them run as much pick and roll as humanly possible because it's gonna help Scoot develop, uh, the vision, the peripheral vision outside when he has somebody that can set screens, and it can make the offense look a little bit better when instead of slipping the screen, they embrace the screen and give Scoot the, half a second advantage that he needs. So I'm really willing to. I want to see the screens between those two and develop that continuity.
Do you think that's why Scoot had to? I mean, sure, there's many reasons why Scoot struggled to finish,
Yeah,
but do you think that contributed to it? Was
of
just his,
course. You don't get
yeah.
that. You don't get that advantage creation that most young guards get with a pick and roll. Um, so you don't get that little advantage that gives him the chance to use his speed to the hoop because you're not getting anything. It's actually probably slowing him down a bit to wait until Aiton sets the screen and then he doesn't. You don't get that advantage. So I would imagine the lack of spacing that we had, DeAndre Ayton not setting screens, and then probably the adjustment period that Scoot had to take were big reasons why he wasn't getting to the paint and scoring as easily as possible. I mean, like, remember when Shaden Sharp was healthy and he had to dunk over like four dudes at a time to score? Like, and two of them were his
Yeah, or
own
his own
man.
teammates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we haven't utilized spacing since Chauncey Billups has been in the head coach position. So, yeah, like I'm gonna blame everything on the lack of spacing, and then I guess DeAndre Ayton not setting screens.
Interesting.
We need everybody to be healthy to see if it's
Yeah,
even
exactly.
possible.
I
Like we didn't
know.
even have those guys like all playing together,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I'm have the quote unquote starters even played like the- a game together? Really? Like I don't think they have.
I'm not even sure who the starters are supposed to be.
Yeah, true.
Like, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure who's supposed to start or who they're
Yeah,
trying to like who they envision starting in like a year from now.
I don't think 40% of the players that are starters now are going to be here in a year or two. So, I
I
mean, it might be
thought it
it
was
might
going
be
to
Dylan
be,
Harper or Cooper Flag or the guy from Illinois that I forget his name, but like, that I don't really think that the guys that are here now are going to be the guys that are here in 3 years, you know?
yeah. I to go back to the starters for this season, I thought it was going to be Anthony, Shaden, Denny, Jeremy, um, and Aiton. Now
Hmm.
with Shaden out, obviously that's not going to happen. So I'm guessing it'll probably be Anthony and Scoot,
Hmm.
which I had looked forward to Scoot and Klingon coming in together like off the bench, but I mean, it all flows into one
Hmm.
another. Does that seem like the starting lineup to you all on night
Yeah,
one, probably?
for sure.
Hmm. So you mentioned Denny a few times, and I
Hmm.
know that you watch a lot of other basketball, not just Blazers. So I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on Denny's addition to the team and how he can best fit in.
So when uh we made the trade, the thing that confused me was like, oh, we suck. Why are we getting somebody that's gonna help the floor? Like he's a playoff player. We're not even close to being that. Um, but yeah, I watched a lot of Wizards games because I like daily fantasy a lot. So I think of him as a really, really, really solid defender that can do almost everything, versatility. And then he's an awesome passer for how tall he is. Like he can be a secondary passer on a team pretty easily. And then I looked at all the players that have played that have similar statistics to him, and he comps out to Lamar Odom. And I'm like, oh, that's a positive player. I mean, like, I know Blazer fans are bummed that Bub Carrington isn't a Blazer, but when I watch Bub, I'm like, I'm impressed by him, but his ass is going to be in the G League for a few years until he can figure out things that he can do other than shoot mid-range or pull up jumpers. So like Denny Avdia is gonna be a floor raiser and a ceiling raiser when we get to a point of being in the playoffs. Like I love what Denny Avdia can do to a team. I just didn't think that we were gonna be the team that gained his services because it seemed a little premature to, trade assets for a guy that's not on the exact same timeline, but I think he's really good. Like the passing, I don't believe in the shooting. I know percentages, yada, 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 but if you look at volume of shots, it's bad. So I don't think of him as a good shooter, but I think of him as an amazing passer, a great defender, and somebody that like is gonna fit around whoever's around him. Like he fits around almost anybody. So I think that he's gonna be a primetime player on any team, any role. He's just gonna fill in perfectly. So I like it. I just didn't think that this 2024 was the year to get Denny. But he's awesome. Like he's just gonna be a really, really high level player for you.
I feel like so I watched a lot of the Wizards too last year because I like to watch other bad teams. Like
Hmm.
because you kind of want to be like, okay, well, where do we sit among the people that are the teams that
Hmm.
are around where we are? Which is why I watched a lot of the Pistons and I watched a lot of the Wizards. And it's very funny to me the way all of those three teams have like made several like biggish trades
Hmm.
in the last like year. And I was like, oh, it's just like the last guys to the dog bowl all trading around the scraps.
I'll
Um,
trade you preference for preference.
Yeah, but the one thing that I felt about Danny is that like I think that he might be a better shooter if like he wasn't shooting from such like kind of
Oh, the yeah,
poor situations.
yeah.
Like a lot of the times when I watch the Wizards play, they like pass it around and like somebody takes a crappy like one-on-one shot and it's like either him or it's Jordan Poole or it's like Corey Kispert or like Tyus Jones or I guess he's a son now, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
It was just like I felt like the situations were not good, and so like
Yeah,
some
the
of those
shot
guys,
IQ was bad with the Wizards, but I think it might have been the Wizards' bad scheme. Like who Denny might be a better shooter than I think, but like if the Wizards' scheme is so bad, like let's just make them take atrocious shots. So like I felt like the shot IQ was pretty bad, but once we have a better head coach who can scheme up some stuff, I think he might shine in a different role that can be a little bit more creative. So I totally get what you're saying with the shot IQ, but that might be the Wizards thing. Like
yeah, yeah, no, totally,
everyone
totally.
was bad at shot IQ.
I think a better system would suit a lot of those guys
Oh
better.
yeah.
I like look at what Jordan Poole turned into
Mm-hmm.
when he was in a bad scheme
Yep.
in Washington, and like everybody knows that in we were all like worried that when he was in the West, that
Mm-hmm.
he would sign a long-term contract and be there forever, and then we would have 2.0 version of that team, and we'd be like, ah, oh, this sucks. But they didn't do that because poor
All the
decision
context.
making,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like I do think that like there are some players that maybe don't look so good in that whatever they're cooking up in Washington that might look exceptionally good in other schemes. I don't know if we have a better scheme. I'll just put that out
Yeah,
there.
that's the thing. Like today, we might be equally as bad.
Right.
If we have a better head coach, I think he could shine in that role. But yeah, what we watched in Washington was pretty bad shot IQ. But there were no good shots to be had. At least Scoot can generate good shots for his opposing or for his teammates. It's a question mark if that shot goes in, but at least the good shot was generated. But I love Denny. I know some people are thinking that he's going to be bad, but I think he's going to be a really good versatile defender. You have Tumani and Denny, I think two of the top five most versatile defenders in the NBA right now. So like that excites me.
It could be really fun this year to just watch them make everybody's life
Hmm.
just miserable, and like the other teams may still finish with more points, but hopefully they'll be miserable at the end of it. I guess maybe that'll be one thing I'll be watching for is like knowing that the Blazers like because you we keep talking about like defenders and then we keep also talking about people who can't shoot, and so that begs the question like who's gonna score? Like we got Anthony. Anthony's
He's
a
gonna take
bucket.
30 shots a game.
It was really fun watching him. It's like I forget like how nice his shot is and how pretty it is to watch him play. I just saw a couple of his shots going yesterday. I was like, oh, that's what it looks like. It's been so long. And then of course DeAndre from between 16 feet and the 3-point line can't miss. Basically, like nobody owns that area like that. But where else? Where are the Blazers going to get offense?
Are we going to be the
Are
new?
we talking about efficient offense or just offense in general?
Go wherever you want with it.
Well, I think Anthony's gonna take like his shots. I think Jeremy Grant, while he's here, is gonna take his shots. Scoot's gonna generate some offense for him and other people, but we don't really have a lot of like. I hope Chris Murray works through that mental block about not getting lift on his shot, but I don't. We have Jeremy Grant and Anthony that are willing and able to take 30 shots a game. I don't I mean, yeah, we have defenders that need to be set up and only, one true setup man and then two tertiary guys. So, yeah, it's good. I think Ant and Jeremy are going to take all the usage that they can for this team. I mean, we've seen them take a bunch of shots. Like efficiency, nah, but they're going to take them. But
So potentially we could be watching a team that's making the other team miserable trying to score. They're still scoring, but they're miserable in doing it. And then they themselves not so great at scoring.
yeah, which is a very weird thing for the Blazers because there used to be a very, very, good offensive team with atrocious defenders. So it's kind of a 180. But yeah, I mean, we have guys that in theory could be really, really versatile, good defenders, but I'm very questioning of the shots and then the ability to score. But I think Ant's gonna be really inefficient and score a lot.
So if we take the long-term view and we think about this team is building a solid defensive system and identity, and in the future years, they can go find offense
Mhm.
rather than in the past when we had Damian Lillard and we had to keep building offense because that's what our star was best at. That's
Mhm.
what the star was best at. Just keep building offense and maybe it'll be Robert Covington. Maybe it'll be laundry list of people,
Yeah.
the one
Let's
defender.
use
So it
all of
sounds
our
like
first round picks to generate these old vets that aren't on our team anymore.
Are we going to be like in for a couple of years where we're like the grit and grind Grizzlies where they like would win with 85 points sometimes? I hope not. That was boring basketball.
I mean, if we get Cooper Flag, yeah. Like, or if we get Dylan Harper, sure. Yeah, I definitely could see it.
I
But
just like that
luckily,
wasn't fun to watch. Like I like they were good at that time, but like if that's our destiny, I'm gonna be like a little bit of the sads because like those were always hard wins when they were playing. Remember like the Zach
Mhm.
Randolph era of Grizzlies basketball, and you'd see the final score would be like 85, 88, and you'd be like, oh God.
I don't think that that's going to be the case because of how pace is, changing the NBA. But if
93,
our
95.
Yeah, if our identity is defense, I'm totally chill with that. Like we haven't had an identity since Dame left, so I'm cool with figuring out that hey, we have a bunch of versatile, gritty defenders. Let's, empower these dudes to be their absolute best, and then if we get lucky, we get Cooper Flag, and if we, top three, we get Dylan Harper, who could be Drew Holiday with a bag. Let's do that. Like at least we have something that we can say, hey, we're good defenders. We can make your life suck. Except, I mean, last year was just like, we're gonna try and score with you with two guys that are good enough to do it, and then, we'll lose by 60 a few times, and Like that, at least we could, in theory, have an identity.
Sage, too much. Too much. Do less.
Yo,
I could live with the team that's really good defensively but can't, or not really. I'm getting ahead of myself. A team that is strong defensively that can't score. I can see that. I think I could survive that for a couple of years as a fan. Um I think I can hold on to that.
I mean, yeah, last year we were bad defensively and we couldn't score well, and that led to some games where I wish I was doing anything else except watching this bad team play basketball. So, if an identity would be fantastic to me.
We touched on it earlier though. Any concerns about the coaching situation where
Oh yeah,
he's in
I
his
would trade
last
him.
year? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I mean, if he's ever wants to coach again, he has to show something in this last year besides the players like him, which is a good thing.
Does
But
all of the players like him though? Because like I feel like he empowered some to like the top end of their outcomes, and then he pooped on others. And what's the opposite of empowered? Like
Disempowered.
disempowered Yusuf Nurkic, disempowered certain players that he didn't particularly like. Like, yeah, I would say some players really like him. Like, I'm sure Jeremy Grant loves the dude, but is he really empowering every single player? I don't think so. Like, he's empowering the people he likes. So I don't even think he gets that. And I like, is Scotty Brooks still on the roster? Like, who is his coaching
No,
staff?
he's
no,
gone.
Yeah, like who's his coaching staff now?
it's Bjorkgren is his number one, I think now.
And
So,
Indiana hates him.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, yes. Do you want to say more about that, Rose?
No, I
Okay.
don't really. I just want to say that like it's really sad that we lost our first assistant because the Scotty Brooks went to Reddick's staff in LA. By the way, which is where Stotts lives now.
Can I
Um
be completely honest about Scotty Brooks? He had the worst offense. Like, I'm sorry. I know people like Scotty Brooks. I think he sucked.
I mean, I
I'm
don't
just saying
know.
I watched some stuff from Caitlin Cooper, our friend of the podcast who covers the Pacers. That era of Indiana with Nate Bjorkgren was not good.
Hmm.
And who's going to be our defensive guy now? Because Roy's gone, right?
No, Roy's still there.
Okay, so we'll
Yes.
be really aggressive defensively.
And
Yeah.
didn't they also fire not fire, whatever it happens when you have a job like this and they don't want to say the F word. They did that, they got rid of Chauncey Billups' brother, right?
Yeah.
Rodney's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yesterday at FanFest, they were doing this defensive drill, which I thought was the scrimmage. And then I looked up and I was like, that's not the score. Anyway, they were doing this defensive drill where they were looked like they were playing 5-on-5, and then they got a point for a stop instead of a point for a bucket. And Nate Bjorkgren was running that. And he was intense. And I know that it was a miserable experience in Indiana, and hat to them for getting out of it after a year. Um, I'm open to the possibility that people can learn, that people can have a really bad, like, remember Stotts had a, I mean, he had a poor run initially the first time he was a head coach. Then he went away and then he came back and did better. I'm not saying Nate Bjorkgren and Stotts are the same, but I am leaving it open that maybe Nate Bjorkgren could have learned something in the last few years after things failed so massively with Indiana. And watching him last night, he was super intense. And, we've talked before, people have talked before about how maybe this team needs a little bit more intensity. So, maybe as part of that defensive identity that they're trying to like lean into, he could be helpful for that.
But there's more good defensive coaches than there are offensive coaches because offense is difficult. So I don't know. I like I'm sorry to feel like such a downer, but I'm feeling like this could be a lost season for the team because of the coaching staff and decision makings that are out of our control as fans. But like I don't believe in the coaching staff. I don't believe in the decision makers up top. So it's going to be a potentially rough season for us as Blazers fans.
Okay, well, I'm going to try to bring us out of that.
Well, that's why I watch college basketball so much is because I believe that college basketball and scouting is such a, a positive thing. Like, let me think of like if Ryan Dunn developed 1% of an offensive game, he's an NBA starter for 15 years. There's that hope that if he can develop that offensive game, he's gonna be a starter. That like if Donovan Clingan developed a jump shot, he's Brook Lopez. Like there's all that hope of like if this person can develop, this is awesome. But with where the Blazers are, it's kind of like, a little bit negative. So like that's why I watch so much college ball and foreign ball. It's because, like what if Flag learns how to dribble better and it's not so loose? He could be, an all-star for 15 years. Or if Dylan Harper, developed a little bit more of a bag. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why I watch the game is because of the hope of, all of these young dudes. If they can change this one thing, they can, change their livelihoods and, their family's financial freedom for generations to follow. That's why I dig college ball so much. You
I'm
know,
cur I'm curious though, like why do you feel that way about guys when they're in college, but not in like the first like say rookie scale contract of their NBA career? Because it's like there's still like we're still like I think looking at players with potential who are looking to develop
oh, I
new
totally agree with you.
skills.
I totally agree with you. It's just I don't believe in Chauncey Billups' ability to develop it.
You just told me not to worry about Donovan Clingan.
I mean, the first thing I talked about was his feet injury. So I mean, I still think that Scoot can develop into a super duper star, but you know, I think that he needs a better coach to do so. But yeah, I think that all these pros can develop. It's just I don't really have faith in our development staff at the current moment. That's
Yeah, our team doesn't have an identity, but like neither does our coaching staff
yeah,
because they don't
exactly.
really have careers where you're like look back and you're like, oh, look at this great offensive mind, look at this
Mhm.
great defensive mind. You don't even know what you're building toward because you don't know what this particular staff is any good at. And there are some coaches that are like great development coaches, but then when it comes time to win, you maybe get a different guy or something. I don't know. But like I don't know if Phillips is he a development guy? Is he a win guy? I don't actually
I think he wants to be a
know.
wing guy, but we're not at that. Like I've talked about Charles Lee on so many different podcasts for years now, right? Like I know that he develops. I know that he helps shooters stay in the league significantly longer than they should. Like I know these things. Like Kent Bazemore wouldn't have been a pro if it wasn't as long if it wasn't for Charles Lee for a fact because he shot with his hand blocking his face. So like I know certain coaches have a rep. I don't know what Chauncey Billups's rep is. Like
He's only been coaching. He was like a first assistant for like what, like one
1 year
season? One
with
season, yeah.
the Clippers, with all of these toys, with all of these super long versatile, great shooter. Like that was like Christmas for him trying to be an assistant coach with that team and then going with us with the flaws like Dame CJ, Norman Powell, like we're short as and then yeah, like he had all of the toys in the world and then he goes and tries to do the same thing with us and we're at where we're at.
Well, thanks for undoing
I know,
all
I
the
know, I
good
know,
you
I know.
did earlier
No.
about making me not worry about Donovan Clingan's
I think
development.
Donovan Clingan is one of the last things you have to worry about though. Like,
Okay. Well, speaking of things to worry about, I did a fun little experiment and I went to the basketball reference for last year and looked at all of the things that the Blazers were dead last in the league at. And so I'm gonna read off the list to you, and I want to
Oh
hear from
God.
you all which area you think they have the best chance of improving the most. Okay.
Okay,
I didn't
lay it
I
on
didn't
us.
I didn't look at every single thing, but I found plenty and I was like, this is enough. I'm gonna stop. Okay. So they were 30th in 3-point shooting. They were 30th in 2-point shooting. They were 30th in defensive rebounds. They were 30th in assists. They were 30th in transition. And they were 30th in shots between 0 and 3 feet and 3 and 10 feet.
How are you bad at transition with Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons?
Because they weren't playing, they were hurt.
True. I guess
So,
Ashton Hagens wasn't going to generate a lot of fast break opportunities.
Okay, but how are we last in 3-point shooting, last in 2-point shooting, and also last in shooting that's like near the basket?
We don't have a good schematic thing that highlights their abilities. I don't think we get better at shooting. I think we get better at passing. I definitely think we get better with passing with Danny Avdia, Donovan Clingan, and Scoot.
see,
And then
I
Devontae
figured
Graham.
that they were worst in assists because they were so bad at finishing.
True.
Yeah, that's probably right. Maybe we get better at rebounds because we have all these size guys.
Yeah, I think
They're all tall now. If they can't grab a rebound, like what's the point of all that height?
true. I would say passing too. 30th is so easy. Like you can't get much lower than 30th. So I
Right.
think
Well, and it wasn't passing that they were 30th in, although they were pretty low. It was assists.
yeah, sorry.
Um, yeah, I've been keeping my eye on passing for many years, and it has only
Got worse.
slightly increased.
Yeah.
So it was 0 to 3 feet and then 4 to 12. Is that
Zero
right?
to three and 3 to 10.
3 to 10. I
So
think we get better in 3 to 10 because
I think we
DeAndre
get
Ayton
better
is
at
going to
paint.
shoot from there.
you think
I
he's
think
going
we
to
get
move
it.
in?
Mhm. Yeah, I think we'd be better at the attacking too with better screen setters and stuff like that. I think we get 28th in all of those statistics next year, and that's an improvement.
We have some like decent cutters
Yeah.
when they're healthy.
And when they're allowed to do that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was a really interesting stat? You notice that I said they were 30th in defensive rebounds because they were second, like overall second in offensive rebounds. Like they
Well,
were
we missed
great at getting offensive rebounds. They just couldn't get defensive rebounds, which I thought was so fascinating.
because we're really good at getting our own misses.
I
I
guess
guess
we, I
like
guess they knew.
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. Well, it must mean that we have poor positioning on defense.
Oh yeah, well just think
Like
if DeAndre Ayton's jumping at a guy getting into the paint, he's not in position to get the rebound.
maybe we're
And
not going to
I
get
guess
better.
that is the Hassan Whiteside effect. Uh, Tara and I were talking about I didn't think there was that much. I thought there was a huge difference between DeAndre Ayton and my friend Hassan Whiteside.
I do too, for
And
the record.
but both of them had to be in a role where they jumped at the defender driving to the hoop. That means they're automatically out of position to get the board. So in that case, that is a similarity between those two games because he has to be that last line of defense, so he's going to be out of position for the rebound if it misses.
So you're telling me that Klingon has to learn to stay down.
Yeah.
Klingon has to learn to stay down, or like that 7-4 rim protection doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah. But you can change that. But at UConn when they're beating the Big East by 30 every game, you don't really need to tell Donovan, hey, stay down on these pump fakes. You don't need to jump at everything. But
He
I
seems
think
like
I don't really have any worries about Donovan. But I don't think that he's going to be a superstar by any means.
he seems like a guy to me that, but just based on like the way I've heard him talk and I've heard others talk about him, that he's like really good about doing what's in service of winning.
Oh, for sure.
And so that's like a guy who I think is like far more likely to be able to change a habit like that because his
Yeah,
team will rely on him to stay down, stay home, just
exactly.
contest at the rim.
Yeah. He's I don't I've been making up heights. He's gigantic. Just make him finish over the extended hands.
Can I give my hot take right now? Because
Sure.
Sage, I don't know if since you've been on the show, we started doing the takes at the end.
Uh-huh.
But I always forget a take or forget to prepare a take, and I have takes in the middle. So my take here in the middle of this episode is one that I've actually been thinking about for a while. And one of the things that I don't, maybe I haven't heard, at least people I know talking about very much, is that I think one of the reasons that Donovan Clingan is also really important to the team right now, obviously he's huge, and we know that Wemby is going to rule the league for the next
Mhm.
decade at least. And if you're going to have any hope at all in the future of slowing him down, even the slightest, you have to have, I think, somebody huge
Mhm.
that can at least put up some little bit of resistance.
Yeah, this is what Dustin told me about drafting Zach Edey, and I believe it much more with Donovan Clingan than I did with Zach Edey. So I agree.
Okay.
You gotta physically do something to stop Wemby. So I agree. But I also would say that we have to find someone to stop Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, and all these other guards too. But yeah, having Wemby a potential guy that can make Wemby's life harder is a great thing.
Right. And well, and look, just looking at the Blazers' immediate concerns, the immediate concerns are not stopping Luca right now. And Anthony Edwards may be a little bit more likely because he will be around
In
a little bit.
in the
Although,
in our
shoot,
division.
Luca's so young too.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's a
Ugh,
baby.
God, all those guys are going to be around forever. The thing they need to do is they need to find somebody like that, which is why we're in the position that we're in, and it's why we're anticipating the year that we're anticipating. Let's be clear. But anyway,
Positive thought from Sage. I think Scoot still can do that.
you think still Scoot could still be the guy?
I think he's a top 10 prospect I've ever watched. So
Okay,
yes.
talk
Yeah.
more. Say more.
Oh, I think that yeah, like when I watched Scoot Henderson at G League Ignite and at the All-Star game, I'm like, dude's free and he can do what he wants and then like I think he's a like I thought he was the best point guard prospect I've ever watched outside of like Chris Paul when I was like way too young to know how good Chris Paul was. So I think Scoot Henderson could still very easily be, you know, a top five point guard in the NBA and be a superstar. But, playing the most minutes with Jabari and then DeAndre Ayton, Ryan Rupert, and then somebody else that I forgot, like it being his most played unit, you're not really utilizing Scoot to be the super elite point guard that I think that he's destined to be. Like we just haven't utilized his skill sets yet. So, yeah, I think Scoot Henderson's gonna sh should be a superstar, but if we don't empower him to be his best, he's gonna not be as good as he can be. So I think Scoot's like a top five dude of the decade. Like I really think Scoot's awesome. Like obviously Wemby's one and like Evan Mobley and Luca better prospects, but I think he's like a top 10 prospect of the 2010s. So I re or yeah, I believe in Scoot so much. I think Scoot's I mean I was the Scoot guy in his draft year. I thought he was going to be a super duper star and I still do.
What
But
does a fully realized Scoot look like in your mind?
a top five pick and roll operator, probably a tier below the Chris Pauls, Tyrese Halliburton's, Trey Young's, but really, really effective in the pick and roll. Hopefully, he develops a shot. Even if he doesn't, I still think he's going to be awesome. But he's going to use his athleticism. He's going to be extremely aggressive defensively, get a lot of defensive playmaking steals, be a menace defensively, and then offensively, he's going to be the conductor of the orchestra that is the Portland Trailblazers. Like, and then we have to just build players that can utilize, like, be good shooters to help Scoot with spacing and stuff like that. So I think Scoot Henderson's a potential super duper star, and that 1 year of bad context does not stop me from believing that Scoot's awesome. Scoot, I am your number one fan. I've been your number one fan for I think 5 years. So
We should have
whenever
led with
Casey
this.
Cunningham was a rookie, it was a freshman at Oklahoma State. I looked at Scoot Henderson like he was gonna be that level of prospect. So Scoot, I love you. But I also think I'm better than him at 2K. So we have that. But I think Scoot's gonna be the star player that we talk about once Chauncey Billups is far, 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 far away from Scoot Henderson and the Portland Trailblazers.
Uh, can you tell a little bit more about, you said that you see him being a menace defensively, and that
Mhm.
hasn't really been part of the
We switch everything.
narrative that
He
I've
won't.
been.
We switch everything, and I can tell that Scoot doesn't want to switch. Like Roy Rogers when he's been on the team, and the switch happens so prematurely, and it's been happening prematurely for years. So Scoot wants to be aggressive and hound whoever the opposing point guard is. So let's say we're playing uh, James Harden in the clip. He wants to hound James Harden, but the scheme is we switch if even if there is a little bit of contact, we auto switch. So we take away his aggressiveness, and when he wants to be aggressive, he gets a defensive foul really easily, and then that tones down his aggressiveness. So I think the schematics for the team sucks for Scoot Henderson and how he wants to play basketball. Like, I don't know if you listened to me talk about how bad Josh Hart was defensively. It's because we switched everything. He wanted to hound, but we never was able to be aggressive defensively because of this the auto switch that happens. So it creates mismatches where Scoot ends up on Zach Edey in the post, and that causes a foul because Zach Edey's like a giant. So I think I don't think we did a good job in supporting Scoot in any offensive or defensive statistic like schematic thing. But
I
yeah, I
love
love it.
that. So, like last,
Watch him defensively this year, or if you want to watch old tapes of the Blazers, which I don't think you should.
why? Just
Yeah, exactly.
Pass.
But watch how Scoot plays defense, and you'll see that that dude wants to be a defensive hound on players
well,
because
how
he's
does
so aggressive.
that is so funny because for the last couple weeks, there's this video of Reed Shepherd making the rounds about Reed Shepherd is a menace, and
He is not a menace. That is
well,
such.
he's
Sorry, I
in
watched him.
in these clips from practice because that's what we're looking at. He got like three stops in a row, right?
Amazing hands. Top tier hands. If you look at those feet, it's a different story. But he has the best hands I've seen. But
Okay.
look at the feet. The feet
So sitting
tell it
there
all.
yesterday watching that drill,
Mhm,
which I thought was the scrimmage until I
mhm.
realized it was a drill. Scoot looked like Reed Shepherd. I was like, that's exactly what Reed Shepherd is. So I realized that that clip of Reed Shepherd was probably them doing that very drill,
I'm
which was
sure. Yeah.
set up for a guy like the point guard to
Mhm.
go in there and be that aggressive. Of course, on the other end, Scoot immediately blew a layup. But that's just early season
It
jitters. We're
happens.
not
It
going to
happens.
worry
Yeah.
about that. But that's why I was like, wait, tell me more about Scoot defensively. And like, it's so been a part of our story the last decade or more is that Portland is just bad on defense. Now we're trying to get used to the fact that we actually have players who are going to hang their hat on defense.
Mhm.
And I have not in my brain switched to that narrative yet. So I'm really glad that you brought up Scoot and his defense and not writing him off yet on
So,
that.
Tara, when you watch, what do you watch when you watch a team play defense? Like, if you watch the Trailblazers play defense, who are you looking at in particular, or are you just looking at the team?
Well, I mean, I'm watching Matisse if he's in because I know
Okay.
Matisse is like you know known for that.
Hmm.
I'm trying to see where the ball is going to go.
Hmm.
I not always successfully.
I feel you.
Um, but that's I mean that's kind of what I'm watching the ball, but I'm watching it in terms of like where is it most likely to go.
Okay. So here's some homework for the first few games. Just watch Scoot. Just watch Scoot play defense, and then you're gonna see this dude wants it. He
Okay.
wants to play defense. It's just that the team isn't letting him play defense the way he wants to play. That's why I have no issues. The missed layup, sure, but I have no issues with what he wants to do defensively. I think he's like the mentality he has, and then the want and desire he has, and when you see it, you're like, oh, I have no issues with Scoot Henderson.
He's
Okay,
a
well,
really he's a really good like lateral mover too.
Oh
Like
yeah, I think yeah. I think Scoot's the future.
he looks very comfortable out there. And like the style, like you think about like kind of like the way that basketball has been trending in the NBA, like he seems like he can hang with some of the best of them, like in terms of like
Hmm.
um
And
like sticking with the player on
watch him
defense.
in that freshman versus world thing. Like he was. he was engaged in doing stuff we never saw at the Portland Trailblazers. Like that's why I think Chauncey isn't empowering the highest draft pick since Bill, right? Like, yeah, I think Scoot's the future.
I was just thinking about how like so like 1 year that Phillips coached in the NBA before he was our head
Hmm.
coach was with the Clippers. And like I think about what the Clippers team was like
Hmm.
at the time he was there. Anybody could guard anybody
Yeah,
on that
you can
team.
switch on
You
anybody,
could switch
right?
anyone. There aren't really many mismatches that you're worried about for
Hmm.
like most teams when you had a team that was built like that Clippers team.
Yeah, like, do we have a Kawhi? Do we have a
Paul
Paul George?
George.
No, no, we don't. We had a flawed team, and he wasn't used to coaching a flawed team.
Yeah. And I do think
I
like
hope the Scoot Henderson love made you more uh willing to deal with a potentially bad season because I still think he's the best point guard prospect I've personally ever seen as an adult that knew, like obviously watching Chris Paul at Wake Forest, I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. But like now as an adult, I'm like, yo, this Scoot Henderson guy is gonna be amazing.
I hope
That's a
we get to
wonderful
just see him
positive note.
play more. I
Yeah.
just want to see him like develop because he was so in and out of
Hmm.
availability and then like limited minutes and whatever. Like it's just so hard to know what kind of development he has made
Hmm.
and also what he can do with just more like consistent minutes and consistent lineups and like I don't know, getting comfortable with the scheme that they're running for him.
Hmm.
Obviously, apparently the defensive scheme doesn't really suit him that well, but like I don't feel like I even know like what kind of shot is he looking for? I don't know. I don't know
Yeah, and I
what kind of
didn't
shot
think
he's
he
looking
took a
for.
mid like when I was watching him at the G League, he was like taking mid ranges freely. And I get that that's not the most efficient shot in the world, but he took it and made it at a really efficient clip. And then now that's like completely and totally taken out of his, what he can and cannot do. So yeah, I just think that we did a really bad job of rookie year Scoot, empowering him and putting him in positions where he, can succeed.
I love the positivity on Scoot. So I am really glad that you're feeling that because I will remember that.
Best point guard prospect in the decade, if you don't count Luka Doncic. Well, I
Best
didn't
point
I
guard
didn't think he was a
prospect.
point guard when he first, like he was 6'7". Like point guard size prospect. Like he's that dude.
Before we go, Rose, you had brought up wanting to maybe talk a little bit about the centers.
Yeah, so we heard teased a little bit in this like preseason stuff is like that they're gonna look at playing two bigs, maybe because so I'll say like in our group chat, like Tara and I have talked a lot about how there's a little bit of a log jam at center. We got a lot of big guys
Mhm.
on this team, and obviously the log jam is clearing up because Robert Williams is injured again, and yada yada. But like this idea that they're gonna start running maybe two bigs in the same lineup in 2024, the year of our Lord. I'm just very curious what you think about that because man, that feels like it, it's like it feels like it's back with my Jinkos, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's bad. I think it's bad basketball. I mean, like, let what does DeAndre do best? He kind of finishes at the rim, probably pretty elite. I don't think that. I mean, if you want to give him
Give him a
16
16
stuff,
footer,
yeah.
Sage.
I mean, I don't think that. I think that you're putting Donovan Clingan at a place where he shouldn't be at. Like, I think that he needs to be a center. He's not a power forward. Neither of them could defend. And I think that offensively, they're both trying to get into the hoop. And then you put in guys like Donovan, DeAndre, Scoot. I mean, whoever, Chris Murray, if he hasn't found a shot yet. Like, that's bringing basketball back to like the 1980s. And in 2024, the year of our Lord, I think it's just bad basketball. So I would be whatever. If you want to play 5 minutes here and there, I don't care. Like, I'll watch. I don't. But like, if it's like a major, like, at the 6 minute mark, we're putting Donovan Clingan in with DeAndre Ayton, I think it's bad basketball.
What if it's not, say, like those two together? What if it's like Klingon and Robert Williams or Aiton and Reith? Question mark.
I don't know if Reith has
He
the
can
lateral
shoot.
quickness to play defense though. But yes, he can shoot.
What if it's Reith and Klingon and then Robert
I don't
Williams and
hate it as
Aiton?
much as I hated it with the two post-centric bigs. But I
Yeah.
don't particularly like it. 'Cause it's like, couldn't you, in theory, instead of putting Reith in, couldn't you put Chris Murray in to see if he can develop that shot, or Tumani, or Jabari, or Denny Avdia?
Yeah. I
Because we
mean,
have
I
a
like
lot of
it.
wings. We have a lot of guys that can swing up four.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm not gonna lie, I like that better. And
yeah,
now we have like been stockpiling wings weirdly.
yeah,
We used to be like oops all guards, and now it's like oops all wings
yeah. All
instead.
guys that need to be spoon fed. Well, let's put them in with a dynamic Scoot Henderson.
When remember Chauncey's first year when he had, like you said, Rose oops all guards and he put in like basically an all guard lineup. I think you should go the other way this and you should just put in all the centers with Delano Banton and just see what happens. Just like here's all the biggest people that we have. Go.
Hmm.
Delano is the biggest point guard ever.
I hope they keep I hope he gets that last spot. I am really rooting for him on that last spot because a tall point guard is not a treat that I thought that I would ever understand or enjoy as much as those little bits of Delano Banton last year.
He's really fun. Like I'll say, like I really enjoyed watching him play last season, and there wasn't a lot that I enjoyed
I feel you.
watching last season, but he was fun and he was long, and you could see some like interesting possibilities with him.
I'm cool with Delano as long as he's well aware that he's gonna scale back his usage. Like, because he was having the ball in his hands more than Scoot Henderson was last year at times. So like if he knows he's like the fifth guard with limited usage and can accept that role, I'm totally fine with him. Are we gonna talk about our takes? Because I've been trying to think of one.
We
Yeah.
can talk about our takes. Now, Tara, was that your take, or do you need another
No,
take?
no, that was my take. My take is that the Blazers, part of the reason that they drafted a big is because they knew that they were going to need to have somebody huge
Okay.
to have a chance against Wemby in the next decade.
Okay.
That's my
Um,
take.
that's a good, yeah, I get it. And also, I love what Sage added about Zach Edey, because I will say when like the draft came, I was shocked to see Zach Edey like drafted so early. But you know, can't teach a guy size,
You can't teach
and
him
there
that
are only so
stuff.
many guys that
Mhm.
big, and maybe you take a chance just because he's that big and he's there.
Yeah, like I was so anti Zach Edey. Sorry about that, Zach Edey, because like he might be the best gadget center in the world, but there's Yves Missy's on the board. There's other guys. I was just like, I'm not utilizing our first row overall, our pick for a guy that's a gadget guy when there's guys like Yves and Donovan Clingan there.
Rose,
Um,
do you have a take?
I do have a take. And this is just something that I was kind of going back and getting myself mentally prepared for the season. I was looking at rosters, seeing who was where, and I forgot that maybe the NBA's most beloved player signed in Europe this year. So I just wanted to say my take is that I am so sad that Boban is not in the NBA anymore. Because I don't know, he never played on my team. Like he barely ever played for, he was with what the Spurs and like the Clippers, and where like whatever. Like I just love Boban. I love Boban's whole thing, and I love that like the last time we got to see him in the NBA was that where he missed that free throw on purpose. I don't know if you guys saw that video. He missed a free throw on purpose. At the end of the season, it was like, it was one of those games that didn't really matter, and he gave away like free chicken or something to the fans when he was on the road because he missed two free throws in a row. And I was like, of course, if anyone was ever going to do that on purpose, it would be Boban. Anyway, that's my take. I'm sad that Boban's not in the NBA anymore, and the NBA is worse off for it.
He had a good run though. He made a
Yes.
lot out of his capabilities. Um,
He
he
did.
made a name for himself.
He did. Go back and look at that video if anyone who hasn't seen it. Boban missing a second free throw on purpose so that he could give Clippers fans free, I think, chicken. It was like Chick-fil-A or something.
That's funny.
Um, yeah, it's good. Okay, Sage, we've come
Okay.
to you. Do you
All
have a
right,
take?
cool. Yeah, oh, yeah, I do. So, for those that don't know, I organize the longest running cultural fair in Oregon. It's our 30, the next year will be our 32nd year of existence, and I would be 34, so it's been there quite a long time. Um, this year I reached out to students at a high school called Phoenix High School. It's a really small town in Southern Oregon to volunteer. And for high school kids to get scholarships, they have to have 10 hours of volunteer hours. And I also got volunteers from like the live sound part of the college. And when they came to meet me, I like try to empower them and tell them like how thankful we are for them. And then I personally reached out to their schools to tell them how good of a job each and every one of these people did. And then the live sound people I introduced to people in Southern Oregon that do live sound for gigs. So my hot take is that people need to be willing to volunteer because many hands makes jobs lighter. And if you're working with people like me, we'll try and set you up for, gigs and stuff. So I think volunteering has been an underrated thing that can be so fruitful to everybody if they give the chance and, you know, volunteer for whatever it is, whether it is like a cultural event like I throw, or, if you love animals, volunteer at, the animal shelters in whatever town. But volunteering is an underrated thing that people need to utilize a lot more because it gives you direct access to people that you may want to talk to in the future about getting gigs and stuff. So my hot take is volunteering is good and people should do it, especially if they're younger trying to find jobs.
Here, here.
Yeah,
That's a wonderful take.
thank you. Yeah, like I reached out to the school, Phoenix High School. It's like these seven kids did an excellent job, but you know what? These three deserve to get special credit. Please let them know that Dylan Sage says I'm so appreciative of you. Please let me know if there's something I can do to be like on your resume for, future scholarships. I would gladly, help try and help you out. And then the person who did live sound, like I called one of my contacts at what is called the Brit. It's like where all of like the 80s superstars go when they're traveling from, California to Oregon. They stop at the Brit Festival and they need live sound people. I was like, yo, so this girl has been helping me with, doing this at the multicultural fair. Put her on the list. She's really passionate about live sound, wants to have an opportunity. So yeah, like I think volunteering has been a really cool thing for at least those people that I was in charge of. I mean, like, yo, if you're passionate about something, volunteer. It can definitely help you out in the long term.
That's awesome. And do you do like a compilation of the event afterwards?
That's a lot of work that I don't
You're
want
so
to
done with it
do.
when it's over. You're like, I'm so
Yeah,
tired.
like yeah, I'm like, yo, in a perfect world, yes.
Well,
But
remind us next year when it's coming up so that
it's the
we can
last
share it
Saturday
out.
of September. It's the last Saturday of September. We're going to have people document it that aren't me in the future. So we'll put it on YouTube and stuff like that. But right now, if you're in Southern Oregon on the last Saturday of September, it's the Medford Multicultural Fair held at the Pear Blossom Park in downtown Medford. And if you're interested in it, like, hit me up on the Facebook or whatever. But yeah, it's a celebration of what makes us different, but also connects us. Like I saw an Asian child there with a white father and a Asian mother, kind of like
Uh-oh, did he just freeze?
Yeah, I think we lost Sage.
Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, he will join us in a minute. And people remember, mark your calendar for the end of September, the multicultural fair in Southern Oregon that Sage works so hard on every year. I actually did watch it live stream one year and it was really, really fun. Also mark your calendars for the start of the Blazer season, which is right around the corner. Rose, it has been a thrill to talk to you again, get us ready. It was awesome hearing from Sage, who maybe we'll get back, maybe we won't get back.
Well,
Um,
he's got a nice gesticulating freeze frame. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, there he popped
Bye.
off. But let's go ahead and wrap it up here. And if he pops in to wrap it up, great. I am so thankful for everybody for listening to the We Have a Take podcast. You can find me on Twitter still at TCB Biggs. I'm on Instagram and Threads as well under that same.
Threads, eh?
I'm trying to be as enthusiastic about NBA threads as all the other NBA threaders. It's great. I love it. Rose, where can people find you?
People cannot find me on Threads, but they can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at Rose L. Harding. You can also find me in our Discord. Uh, you can also find me at the games sometimes. If you see the person with the hot pink hair, that's me.
And we are signing off, but I see Sage is trying to connect, and at the same time as he's trying to connect, I'm trying to call up his
Hey,
um
everybody.
there you are. Sage,
Yay!
Damn internet. I was on a roll.
I know, and you were just gonna tell we were just signing off, but if you want to finish your story, you were just telling us about seeing a young Asian child with a white mom.
Oh, they were very happy to see people that look like them and have being a part of cultural events, like seeing that type of thing where they're like, "Oh my God, there's someone that looked like me," that's like the awesome thing. But volunteering and actually being part of your community is the hot take that I think people need to do. That yeah,
I
dang
love it.
internet, on a roll.
Tell folks where they can find your thoughts on basketball as we get ever closer to the beginning of the season.
As we get closer to the end of the season, if you want to hear me talk about basketball, obviously the Holy Backboard is the place to get mine and my co-host's opinion about the game, and that you can find it everywhere that you find Blazers. What I will be there. And then if you want to follow me, the place that I actually am the most is TikTok. And if you search Desage Hoops, that's DASAGEHOOPS, you'll find me. And if you drop me a follow, I'll be very, very appreciative. Thank you for having me, Blazers. What it has been an honor. And yeah, it's time to watch some football and take a nap. So, but thank you so much for having me.
Always great to have you and go Blazers.